Hi, my name is Newell Davis with World Composting, and today we're going to cover the difference between these bag systems and this 10-gallon tote type system, and which one might work best for you depending on where you are in your process of starting with worms, or being an intermediate or advanced person with worms, or somebody who's looking to maybe do them outside versus inside. So let's go over the advantages and disadvantages to each one of these systems. Let's start with the totes. Now, these have been a staple of my system for years. I have tons of videos going over how to use these, but one of the big things I really like about them is that these are very durable. These things have, this is probably 10 years old, maybe even, maybe a little younger, but it's around that point. You can see there's just no discernible damage to these systems. I've drilled holes in them. They hold together really well. They have better moisture retention because of the fact that this is all plastic. The moisture tends to stay inside. You do need to drill these air holes around the outside or in your lid to allow that moisture to evaporate and to get that air transfer going. But these things really hold together well. They are also, and I'll show you here, they are stackable. So if you've got multiple, you can just stack them right on top of each other. It's no big deal. These lids are all nesting. It works really well in that way as well. These are also better insulated. So if you have a basement like mine that is kind of cold, these can be really good because it's going to kind of keep it warmer inside. It's not going to let that heat evaporate out that you might need for your worms. And in the long run, these are pretty cheap to buy. I don't know how much they cost now. I mean, these roughneck ones are pretty expensive, but they have other ones that are just as cheap. You know, you can buy them for like $10 a tote, and you can have multiple going at the same time. They're easy to modify. As I said, I drilled holes in them. You can also, drill holes in the bottom if you wanted to. So if you wanted to put holes in the bottom here, you can make these stackable, like the stackable systems, and the worms can migrate up through. So there's a couple different ways to use them. These are pretty good at containing odors because of the fact that there's not as much air transfer. If you get a system that really smells, this is going to contain it, whereas if you have something that's mesh, it's just going to breathe out into your room, which I've had happen before. These also work pretty well if you block up the holes as a pest barrier. But these holes, if you've got these holes going all around, pests can get in, but they have trouble getting out, I've noticed. So like I'll open these up and I'll be like, oh my gosh, there's a ton of fruit flies, and I'll shut it. They can't seem to get out. So that's a good thing really in a lot of ways. But there are, with all those advantages, some disadvantages. So if you get larger than this 10-gallon, you start getting up to the 14-gallon size or above, these get really heavy. Dirt and water and things, they get very heavy when you start lifting them up in these amounts. And if you're just not as strong a person, you're not young and fit, or if your kid's doing it or helping you and they don't anymore, you might not be able to move these around quite as easily. There's a higher chance of injuring yourself, especially when you get over this 10-gallon size. I really feel that this is sort of that optimal size. They also, you do need to drill holes in them. You need to do something, or you can take the lids off. You can lay bubble wrap on them, but then you get some other advantages and disadvantages with that. But they do kind of require some modifications to make them really work well. They are a little bit harder to just take a quick glance at. You have to pull them if you have them on a shelf or stacked. You got to pull them out. You have to open them up to look inside. You can't just take a quick glance at it and know. And if you have them stacked or if you have them on a tower, you need some way of labeling them. Like I've put labels on the sides here a lot of times. That way I can have them stacked on my shelf. And that works as well. And there is some initial setup time as far as drilling and things like that. Now, saying that, these are expandable very easily, but these are also small containers. If you're trying to run a lot of worms or you've got a lot of food, you just want a simple system, these can get kind of complicated when you start having 8 to 10 of these, which I've had before, and all of a sudden you're trying to monitor which one did I feed last. You really need to make sure you mark them on the side when you fed them, so that way you can go back and check on them, and then you might forget one, and then they sit for a while. So these can be a little bit hard when you start getting to a large number. Now with that, let's go take a look at the bag system and see what their advantages and disadvantages are. All right, as you can see here, I've got my Urban Worm Bag and my VermiBag Max. These are both very similar systems, maybe slightly different covers on them, but overall, they are very much the same, I feel. One thing is that there is a little bit of, assembly required with these frames, but it's really not that hard. This one's a push-together frame. You can buy the same thing, I think, you can use a plastic frame for the VermiBag Max as well. I built one out of wood so I can actually lay stuff on it when I'm recording. But these are really robust systems. You can pick them up and move them. They are very heavy, obviously. I've done that though multiple times where they are filled and I have picked them up and moved them. You just got to make sure you're pressing these frames together, and for this you'd want to put so you can add some wheels on the bottom of it. You can move it around that way. So these are mobile as well. These hold so much more material though than the 10-gallon tote systems. Even when you get up to the 14-gallon size, these are just massive systems. They're really, really deep. They can hold a lot. They really, like this one right here, is kind of square down and that kind of comes in. The VermiBag Max kind of slopes in the entire time, but they are really, really easy to kind of just keep going and keep filling up. They take a lot of food. They can hold a lot of worms, especially as they move through the surface area. They have a lot more surface area on here. And same thing here. Now with this one, you can also get a mesh top on it to get that airflow. I always keep my a plastic mat or the tarp inside to kind of keep the moisture in, but they really do good for that. Now there is a couple disadvantages. One, these are more expensive. I mean, you're talking $100 to get one. If you're just starting out, I still wouldn't recommend these. I would recommend going the 10-gallon tote, and then if you find that you're able to keep up with it, I would get one of these. Now, this is where these are just phenomenal in this way. They are easy to harvest. If your only goal is castings, you just come underneath. I'm going to show you on this side. It's a little bit brighter here with the tote underneath. I do have this, by the way, for drip. These can drip through, which is one of the issues with them. But these are so much easier to harvest. You just unzip that. You just have the castings fall out, and boom, you're done. It's harvested. And then you can close it back up, and you just keep adding food to the top. They are incredibly easy if you are trying to get castings. Now, with that, if your goal is to harvest worms for, say, fishing or something like that, maybe these aren't as good. You have to go through the top. You can still harvest, but then you're kind of disturbing the entire surface area on the top, and you have this entire deep section of castings that you don't need. So for that, a 10-gallon tote might be better. Now, I do like these also because these are really good at keeping pests out. They're zipped up. Typically when I get pests in there, if I were to get fruit flies, I can add a fruit fly trap, which I have a video on, and then I can just close them up, and the fruit flies will just slowly disappear as they disappear into those traps. So that's one of the things I really do like about them. Now, these aren't scalable. Like the 10-gallon totes, you can just keep buying more. You could do the same for this, but it's not like you can stack them easily. Like as you can see, I've got them side by side. I've got another one off to the behind me. They take up a lot of room, and above it, there's not, like, unless you have shelves or something, there's not a lot you can do above it, and you can't really stack them vertically. So maybe not quite as good if you're looking to go really, really large. But again, you do have that continuous flow through design, which is really nice. The other thing with these is that the frames I have found, like this wooden frame is pretty robust. You do have these metal rods right here to hold the bag up. These do weigh a lot. I haven't had any issues with this one, but this one has popped apart at the frame a couple times, and I just had to pull it together. You can also, if you really want to do, to make sure it's not going to come apart, you could put a strap all the way around this and make sure that it's just tied off so that way it can't move apart. You can do it at the top and the bottom, and that seems to work pretty well. I do that actually on my small VermiBag Mini. I've got a strap running around it just to make sure it stays tight and taut, all these corners that are right here. So with that, which one would I recommend if you're going inside? I think any of them can work. Inside, all these systems can work, and I really think that if you've got a shelving system, the 10-gallon totes might be better than these simply because of the loss of space above them. But if you're outside, I want to say that the urban worm bag and the VermiBag might work better. Now the VermiBag, you can get these with a mesh top. You can put it, and I think the urban worm bag also has like a top you can put over it to keep water out, almost like a tent. But these can go outside. They do not hold up though if you have cold weather. These are not insulated in any way. They're not going to stay warm. That heat is just going to transfer right out of the system if it gets cold, and their worms are going to die in there. So if you live in a cold climate, these are sort of out. In a hot climate, or like let's say you live in Florida or something, these will probably work really well outside, these systems. They would probably, you'd want to have something to prevent this from building up the water when you get rain, so that's where you need that tent system on top. Same for the VermiBag Max, or you can have this mesh lid where the water runs right through and you get a whole bunch of leachate out the bottom that you could use as a compost tea. There are some options, but the thing is that these could probably work just fine outside in a humid type environment. Arizona, they might have some issues. You'd have to water them. With 120 degrees, it'd probably be too hot for the worms, but you could, if maybe in the shade they would work. I don't know. That might be a little bit too hot for them there in the summer. But I really do like these systems. I like all of these systems. They just have different advantages and disadvantages. I think overall, for somebody that has like a family of 4, really the Urban Worm Bag or VermiBag Max might be your best system, because it's really easy to just throw the food scraps in and harvest from the bottom. If really that's what you're after are those castings, and the worms just take care of themselves, no big deal. It's kind of sort of self-harvesting, manages itself very easily. You do have to worry, as you can see right there, all the brown liquid that has drained out of the system as I threw in watermelons and things like that, that it doesn't leak onto your floor. But this also, the worms tend to not be able to get out, I have found. The 10-gallon totes, the worms can get out if they are unhappy. They will crawl through those holes and get out. They will not do that out of these bag systems, as far as I can tell, but they will. Actually, I mean, you can see over here, they've crawled out of my my system right here onto the floor and died out of my African nightcrawler tote system that I had going. So that's my thoughts. Leave some comments down below. What is your favorite system to use? What are you using right now, and what do you wish you had? Leave a comment down below. I'll leave some links to some of my other videos that I have on these systems. Of course, I've got tons of videos, and it's a really great idea to just check out my videos and see what I have. And I'll link to some of the other common occurrences that you have as far as pests and things like that. So with that, go check out those other videos, and thank you for watching.